File number 257259 FH, time of day sentencing. Ms. King is present, represented by Attorney Elizabeth B. Weisenbach. People are represented by prosecuting attorney Timothy J. Rakowski. On April 28th of this year, the defendant pled guilty to 2 counts of resisting obstructing a police officer. Ms. Mandy Alexander is prepared the pre-sentence report. It's dated May 16, 2025. And Ms. Weisenbach, has you and your client had the opportunity to review the pre-sentence report?
Yes, we have.
Are there any additions, deletions, corrections, or objections to the report other than guidelines?
In our first review, we did have a correction that we made. We followed Liz Alexander, and she was kind enough to make that amendment. You and the prosecutor's office should have corrected 2 pages of the PSI. And then the only other thing is to update the court with regards to employment. My client has become employed at Wendy's full-time as of May, so we would have the court to have that noted on page 1 of the PSI, and then also there would be for the body report.
Well, we'll note it in the record that she does have employment, but at the time the pre-sentence report was prepared, she wasn't.
Yes, correct. Okay. Other than that, no.
Okay. Ms. King, do you agree with that?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Mr. Rakowski, any objection to the report as well as guidelines?
No, Your Honor.
No objection to the guidelines, Ms. Weisenbach?
No.
Anything you'd like to say on behalf of your client before the court imposes sentence?
Thank you, Your Honor. My client comes before the court diagnosed with complex PTSD since 2013 was her diagnosis. So it's different than regular PTSD. I did a little bit of research. There is a national center with regards to PTSD that defines complex PTSD as, and I quote from the introduction, whereas it was originally proposed to capture the long-term consequences of prolonged early trauma, such as child sexual abuse, the current ISD-11 definition, international complex diagnosis definition, focuses only on symptoms and not the type of trauma. So it's the opportunity for a person to have a higher and a different level of diagnosis, which then assists with regards to treatment. So it wasn't until 1980 that regular PTSD was admitted to the DSM with provision. So now we have PTSD that affects not only our veterans, but was a diagnosis from the 60s on, which had to do with returning from trauma due to warfare, of gunshots and fireworks that were triggers. And now other people, they've decided, can be diagnosed with PTSD because of traumatic life events. And I would draw the court's attention to page 7 and 8 of the PSI, which talks about my client's past history, which I don't want to necessarily put all that on the record, but to be fair, it seems like the definition here checked the box, because that's why my client is diagnosed with complex PTSD. With that being said, she has done well enough in life. She is married, she has 3 children, 2 of them are autistic, and she had prior issues that have also caused her problems involving police. And specifically, recently, of sorts, since about December, kind of when some things were going on with the situation involving her dog. I don't have all the details about that, but there had been police contact with her husband involving a dog and a ticket situation and some other things. But she also had a personal prior issue with someone who happens to be a police officer, and that was Steve Fisher, who came to the house this night in this case. So you take the past traumas, the diagnosis, the situation involving her children, you've got then some police contact with the dog, and now you've got a trigger of the particular police officer coming to the door on this night. So they come late at night, they come with their lights and their sirens, her husband is at work, the children are in bed, and it's as if it was a fireworks scaring a dog or a gunshot freaking out a veteran. Personal contact creates a trigger. And the court can see in the PSI description of the police report, it is set off instantly, just like that. I want to point out something from the police report that is not noted in the PSI, but to be fair, it's a rewrite of the police report, and it's not necessarily detailed. But 2 things. The police officer was contacted on February 20th at, this is 2024, and I think that's incorrect. Anyway, at 18:01 hours, that was when Officer Bishop got a call with regards to a harassing situation. So he reports to that household and finds out that that he needs to investigate my client making harassing phone calls. We don't even get to any of that. That's beyond what gets discussed later. So it takes him a little bit of time to find her, to locate her, and then it ends up being later in the evening where he comes and knocks on the door. So if you remember February, it starts dark early, so it's dark out, her husband's gone to work, and the kids are probably in bed for school. So this is when this particular police officer shows up at this particular time, when these particular circumstances exist. And again, she has a personal history with him as a person that sets off her complex PTSD. So he's there to investigate annoying phone calls. And that is in this CSI description with regard to the police report. It says that there were no threats being made, but the calls were becoming an annoyance. So it's decided by this police officer who does know her, has known her, decides that he's gonna spend a few hours investigating and show up after dark at her house and pound on the door. Now, as a full police officer with the authority and the dominance that comes with that. Also, it says that they came for an active warrant. Fair, but let's look at what it actually is, because it's in the police report that it was a FTA, FCJ for civil infraction that had been April 17th, 2024. So it's an old sitting. I know it's active, I'm aware.
Court's position on that is, oh, well. I mean,
Okay,
let's be honest.
I understand.
A bench warrant. Law enforcement doesn't care. If there's a bench warrant, they're acting upon the order of the court.
But they're acting upon the order of the court nearly a year later and late at night because of an annoying phone call. So all of this can be handled in daylight hours, maybe a little calmer, and probably better discretion used by a different officer. So like I said, it's a different officer.
Oh, I see.
Because I'm trying to explain, this is an accumulation that leads to a trigger. Because then you get to the police report, you get into the PSI description of the police report, and she's set off immediately. I wanted to have the court understand what caused my client to react the way she did, and this is why. So, she made the statements to the police at some point, fairly early on when they come into the house, and she said, she's made statements that she had post-traumatic stress disorder and that she had a fear of male officers. So she's announcing this in her trauma reaction. She's announcing this. And so they switch gears and they have her talk to the female officer, which I can appreciate. But once a person is triggered, it isn't like an instant, oh, okay, calm down. It is a offset. And that has to be handled differently. And not every officer who goes to a door and knocks on the door knows what they're gonna get when they come and see these folks, when they're coming to talk to them about annoying phone calls, or, oh, let's talk about this failed to report for court for civil infraction from over a year ago. It's, once you're set off. But despite that, she still tries to, according to this description, and it's how you describe it, quote, dictate the scene. Well, she's got 3 small children that they woke up. She has no husband at home to help her calm down. And it's just escalated. It is completely out of control at this point. It has become a resisting of sorts. So we have that. So in order to dictate the situation, what she's trying to assert is control of her home and care for her children. And I understand none of this is gonna square. Police officer shows up, they knock on the door, they wanna talk about this, and they think they're being appropriate. And then when she says, I've got these issues, they switch to a female officer. She can't switch off. When she's on, she's on. And that's why we have what we have today.
Anything else?
Regardless of all of this, the delay of sentence is recommended by the prosecutor's office because I appreciate them listening to my explanation to this, probably a little more than they wanted to. But to be fair, this is what was going on with her. Her side needed to be understood. So the prosecutor's office has recommended delay of sentence, and we will gratefully ask the court to follow that as well.
Ms. King, is there anything you'd like to say?
I do appreciate it. I apologize for absolutely the one that to me that apology that I received. And I'm having trouble remembering that there was a younger officer. Actually, had a really hard, and I know they were just doing their job. It's
And for the record, we're talking Fisher, not Bishop, right?
Kyle Fisher.
Officer Fisher.
Yeah.
FedEx Police Department, formerly Tuscola County.
Right.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
Where?
Mr. Rakowski, anything on behalf of the people? This is a victim's rights case.
It is. I've talked to Officer Fisher, which in my conversation with him, he had no objection to the plea offer. I had not talked to Deputy McCardle about it, but I think the court gets a feel for what had gone on there. You know, the officer he only went to the house because he exhausted all the phone numbers that he could call. So he went to the house, and then from there it just went downhill. And as the report indicates, at Deputy McCardle, since she was there to assist him to try to rectify it, and it was a circumstance that should not have happened the way that it happened. And it's the officers that are there. He was simply there to ask her to stop calling her mother and making the statements that she was making. So we ask you to adopt the recommendations as set forth by Department of Corrections.
And this was a matter that occurred in Lincoln Township. It didn't happen in the city of Bad Axe.
Those that are home.
Right.
They could. It
I'm
started
assuming
off with
Bad
an
Axe went out there
investigation in Bad
first.
Axe, and then they went to,
I see.
yes,
I
because
see.
that's where she lives.
All right. Well, I don't, the court does not profess a knowledge or skill, expertise in PTSD. I'm clearly familiar with it. Do I understand it? No, I don't understand it. All I know is that it's there, and it's true. It's in the DSM whatever criteria now, and frankly speaking, I gave you an opportunity. However, it just seems to amaze me that a female officer gets involved, but then the female officer gets hurt. And it appeared that law enforcement, at least on behalf of Deputy McCardle, clearly, I don't think she probably had a heads up to it, but at least there was an accommodation there. But really, she went off on Deputy McCardle. You know, it's easy for me to say, but even if you're pulled over on a traffic stop, even if I'm pulled over on a traffic stop, I'm no different than anyone else. I put my hands on the dash. She or he can see what's going on, no issues, no problems. And in this case, it didn't happen that way. And it got pretty, lack of a better phrase, rather engaging, so to speak, what happened over there. But there's a reason why the people are requesting and recommending the delay of sentence. Clearly, it favors everyone here at the end of the day, because the ultimate goal is, okay, I understand what my issues are. What do I do to avoid seeing that or having that repeat itself in the future? And understand, it's easy for me to say, but if law enforcement is there merely to do their job, let them do your job, let them do their job, and we can handle it here at the court. And that's kind of how we're doing it at this point. It will be the disposition of this court that the defendant be placed on the delay of sentence probation provision for a period of a year. Review date will be June 29, 2026. I believe that was the same day in the other file. Conditions of that probation include you're not to violate any criminal law of any unit of government, not to leave the state of Michigan without prior approval of the court, notifying the probation agent at least monthly or such times and places the agent may require. You are to use your prescription medication. This applies to both counts. You are to use your prescription medications only as prescribed by your doctor. You are to take your medications as prescribed, waive confidentiality regarding any treatment that you may have to attend at the direction of the agent, disclosing that information to the agent. You are not to change your residence unless you first obtain written permission of the field agent. No assault of abusive, threatening, or intimidating behavior. No verbal, written, electronic, or physical contact with anyone housed within an MDOC facility, nor are you to have the same type of communication with anyone engaging in a criminal matter or any violation of any criminal law of any unit of government. You may not use or possess, have under your control or area control a weapon of any type. You can't even possess an imitation. You are not to be around anyone that possesses those items. You are to contact the supervising field agent no later than the first business day following your placement on probation. You must comply with all written and verbal orders of the field agent. You are to allow the agent your residence at any time for supervision where you're subject to a search of your person and property, including but not limited to your vehicle, home, or computer without the need of a warrant if the agent has reasonable cause you have items that violate the terms of your probation. Any arrest or police contact, loss of employment, or change of address must be reported within 24 hours. You are to make genuine effort to find and maintain legitimate employment, which you are now gainfully employed, as I understand. So that's great news, but I'll order that provision. Crime victims assessment of $130, probation supervision fee $30 per month, regular 60 electronic. Court cost of $100 payable at the rate of $10 a month. A fine of $100 payable at the rate of $10 a month. Attorney fees are waived in this matter because, bless you, time you were not employed. $136 in state costs will be ordered as well. Again, the review will be on June 29, 2026 at 9 a.m. However, I must advise you of the right to seek leave to appeal if you're financially unable to provide counsel of your own choice. Court will assign counsel for your public expense. Please initial the receipt questionnaire form requesting the assignment of counsel, both of which must be executed under oath and filed with the court within 42 days. Ms. Alexander.
I apologize, condition 3.3, to complete mental health was not added.
That part will be added as well at the discretion of the agent. Any questions, Ms. Campbell? Good luck to you. Hope to see you next year, same day, today's the 30th, but the 29th, no time sooner. If you do show up sooner, that means we have a problem. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank your attorney for her hard work as well.
I,
Off there.